so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special episode dedicated to none other than you, the P-heads themselves. I am your P-head enthusiast and hostess for the day, Alexa Hauser. I have been blessed to have the experience of helping out with Positive Head social media for the better part of a year. And through my digital interactions, I began to realize, as did Brandon, that we have some incredible beings listening to this show who are taking the information that Brandon puts out through the podcast and using it to transform their lives and create wonderful things. You listeners are all a huge, huge part of the life force that propels this show forward through time and space, and we think it's time to bring forth some of you beautiful reflections and delve a little deeper into this collection of energy that is the Positive Head community. So as we shine the spotlight on our listeners, what we'll have them do is share their stories of how they attracted Positive Head into their life, the transformation it's facilitated for them, and what they're focused on creating now that they're in a more positive headspace. Also, this episode of the Positive Head podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Hello, all you positive heads. On this week's P-Head Posse episode, our guest is Positive Head listener Danny Rongo. Danny is an author, playwright, podcaster, singer-songwriter, bassist, activist, and a direct disciple of Dr. Wayne Dyer. Hi, Danny. Welcome to the show.
Alexa, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Oh, I'm excited as well. I'm doing really well, and I'm really interested in you're a direct disciple of Dr. Wayne Dyer. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it means someone like, I'm sure there's many out there, Alexa, who have just gravitated towards Dr. Dyer for one specific reason or another. But how it happened to me was on the suggestion of my lifelong friend back in 1976. You can do the math. That's some 40 years ago plus, but we were actually freshmen in high school, and he turned me on to this book called Your Erroneous Zones. And for one reason or another, I just took such a personal attachment towards that book that I just followed suit with everything he read from that. And then I started to notice that it started to make me question a little more about my own spirituality. I started reading more from him, and then obviously from other authors. But Wayne was always my anchor per se, Alexa. You know what I mean? He was always that rock for me, and I just loved. And then I would go to see him at his seminars, and I had the pleasure of actually meeting him a few times. Actually, me and my wife met him on a few occasions, and so he's just always been that guy for me. And he's my guru, dare I say? But he's the guy for me. Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, I love that. Well, will you give us all ring ring? Is it Wayne?
It could be. My bad. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no problem at all. Well, will you give us all maybe a little bit of your background of, how you what your story has been up until now and how you got on this path that led you here to this conversation?
Well, absolutely. Based on all those early readings from him, I was, I'm still to this day a singer-songwriter and a musician. So I was always writing lyrics. And what I noticed is, as I started to get into my 20s, Alexa, that most of the lyrics that I was writing for my own songs always had this kind of theme towards it. I really wasn't sure how to categorize it per se, but I always noticed that there was a commonality towards it, which I started reading more and finding out that it was more of this term called oneness. So I'm writing these songs, and for some reason or another, they're real pretty songs, but my lyrics are all with different themes and different aspects of oneness in it. So I started going through the years, the songs, the records, the decades and stuff like that, but that was always my foundation. And so then I started doing more from like an activist standpoint. I started to give back and serve in, like in the many ways that people do with like me. I like found a niche. I started working doing like a lot of work for veterans, and which really touched home for me. I'm not a veteran per se. My dad was, and I got a lot of cousins and uncles who are and who were, but I've always had a real close association to veterans. So I started doing an awful lot of work for them, raising an awful lot of money too as well. And then, as I started to grow more and more, I started writing more songs. I started doing more things and more advocating, I should say. And I had a really big thing happen back in 2016. Through all this stuff I was just telling you, Alexa, I was working on Wall Street for 30 years. It was my full-time position. I was a bond trader and salesperson for Citigroup, very big company. In March of 2016, I got laid off by them. It just happens in that industry. They don't keep you, as soon as you get into your mid-50s, it's like, don't let the door hit you and then you know what. You know what I mean? So at first I was devastated, and I was like, all right. So I'm sitting having these heart-to-hearts with my wife, and it's like, okay, where do we go? We just recently, like we were in our dream home, and we were saying how we're going to be able to hold it and stuff like that. But so I kind of had one of those aha moments, per se. I was just doing a walk and a meditating session one day, and like the word surrender just actually popped into my head. So from that, I started just, delving more into that aspect of oneness, like how important it is to like be able to let go and let God, as they say. I was viewing that same premise just from the word surrender. Like, it's important for me to surrender what I was going through. I didn't need the weight. I didn't need the baggage of, hey, I lost a job I had for 30 years. What are we going to do for money? What are we going to do about the home, blah, blah. So I just per se gave it away. And I, like they say, let go, let God, or I took a leap of faith. Plenty of adages about that phrase and about that saying. So that actually led to another song of mine, and which went along very well in my circles and with my friends on my sites and everything. But that kind of led me to a musical. And, because I've always had these songs, I said, so, all right, here I am now, technically unemployed. What's the best way for me to continue this message of oneness? And that song was like the inspiration, and plus from the help of my stepdaughter, who I mentioned to you earlier, who said, Danny, you've always done the songs, and you've always done these, and you do fundraisers, and you always talk about oneness. You stand in front of people and you speak about oneness, but you have the music too. She goes, why don't you put it into a musical? And that's when that proverbial light bulb went off, Alexa, and I was like, ding, 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 ding. I was like, wow. So that's what I spent most of 2016 doing. Was I took 10 of my songs that had a really combined, cohesive message of oneness, and then I wrote a play around it. Obviously, it was a one-man play. It was just me. So how I wrote this musical was that it was actually called The Phone Call, where I was having a conversation on my iPad up on stage with a friend of mine who was in need to try and come to terms with the understanding of oneness. So through the play, I'm having this conversation with him, and I'd go through specific chapters, and then I would conclude each chapter and perform one of the songs, either by playing it by myself on acoustic bass guitar, which is my instrument, and singing it, or singing along to the backing tracks that I have from my records. So I actually put that together, and then I started to perform it in some smaller theaters in New Jersey. And then I had the opportunity to actually perform it on Broadway in New York City. And with all thanks to United Solo, which is the largest actual festival, like in the world for like solo performers. And they like have a festival every year on Broadway. And I was selected to be part of that. So that was just huge for me to be able to have my message and then take it from theaters in New Jersey to Broadway. And what came after that, through the tail end of that, like, just about as I got it on Broadway, my mom fell really, really sick. And so obviously that took a lot of my energy and my family's energy. And, my mom actually passed away in January of this year. So January 18, my mom passed. Mm. So, of course, I did some soul searching with Mom, Alexa. And I was like, after she passed, I was like, Mom, I said, I need your incentive. I need your, intuition, which is a whole chapter of my book, by the way, which is about, intuition and how we can channel it better from a perspective of oneness. I was like, I did the musical, Mom. I took it to Broadway. Not that I can't take that further, but give me a sign. Where do I go from here, per se? And I heard her voice loud and clear in my head. She always called me Daniel's son. My Daniel's son. She'd go like that to me all the time. Mm-hmm. So she said, write a book, Daniel's son, write a book. So, in March of this year, I sat down and like many inspired authors say, Alexa, the words just fell out of me. So I wrote pretty much solid for about 4 months, got me up till about the end of July. And I had this book, and I decided to call it I Am God, and So Are You, My Friend. Mm. And the subtitle is A Common Man's Guide to Oneness. So from there, I started shopping for the right publisher, and all I've ever read, not all I've ever read, I'd probably say 90% of the spiritual related books that I've read over the years were from Hay House. So they were my first stop, and I found a really good niche with Balboa Press, which is a subdivision of Hay House. So I was able to work out, deal with them. And as I'm sitting here speaking to you, I'm looking right at my book, which just came to fruition over the last actual week. I just got my copy, and it's now available on all your online, all the online retailers, I should say.
Wow.
And I'm working out now with them how I'm getting it in the brick and mortar stores, per se. But this journey, like I was saying, Alexa, it just went from me with music, and then to getting laid off from a job, to making a musical, and then losing my mom, and then being inspired to write a book. So what I did while the book was being processed by Balboa Press, because they told me, this is back in the early part of it, because they said this is probably going to be a 4 to 5 month process. I said, fine. I said, let me look into the world of podcasting. And that is how I came across guys like you, Positive Head, or sites like you, I should say. And I said, you know what? I said, this is perfect for me to do my own podcast, while I'm waiting for the book to come, and while my friends and fans who, try to stay in touch with what I'm talking about in oneness, because I can only say so many times a week, oh, the book should be out in 4.5 months, now 4 months, now 3.5 months. So I said, so I started putting out these podcasts over the last couple of months, and that's under the name of That Oneness Guy. So if you've seen that out there, that's me.
You're on podcast, That Oneness Guy?
I'm that oneness guy. Yes.
I love it.
And, but I was inspired by actually visiting your site, which just gave me so much more inspiration, because I'm like, all right, how do I come across, talking about what I talk about? And I don't like to go too long with my episodes, per se, but I said, you know what I can do that's a little different too. So I start and end each one of my episodes with, a little clip from one of my songs. So I'm almost pulling in parts of my musical with my podcast episodes too. So I'm hoping that attracts to certain listeners too, which I know it has in the past, from the people who've liked and have seen my musical. But, so that's, I guess, technically where I'm at right now. I have a newly released book, a podcast that's out there, and I'm speaking to you, Alexa, and I couldn't be happier, my friend.
Oh wow! Congrats, Danny. That's amazing. It feels like you are in the vortex, my friend.
Yeah,
And
right.
well, I'm really interested, in the book. Could you give us I don't know, some your favorite parts or some big takeaways that we might get or that might interest someone into, diving deeper into the content?
Well, absolutely. First and foremost, why I chose to use as a subtitle, Alexa, A Common Man's Guide to Oneness, because I've read many spiritual books. I'm sure you have, everyone has, and it's always been my take that aside from someone like a Wayne Dyer, who to me was so relatable, and that's why I guess I really gravitated for him. I wanted to come across from that angle. I didn't want to to be viewed as that guy. Oh, he's a little too spiritual for me. How I'm talking to you is how the book reads. Everything that I've ever done, from my songs, from speaking in front of 2 people or speaking in front of 200 people. When I speak about oneness, I come across like someone you want to talk with, first of all, and you can relate to. That's why I said this is a common man's guide to oneness. I put it in those terms. You want to call them layman's terms? That's fine. I don't care. But I just want the people to know that you'll understand it. You'll get where it's coming from. I'm honest. You know what I mean? There's a lot of point, that title. First and foremost, I am God. That's why I put in parentheses underneath that. And so are you, my friend. I know that that's kind of representing a shock value, which I wanted to have. I want people to understand that inherent truth and force that resides in everything is your God. Whatever you want to call your God, Alexa. I state this first and foremost, that I don't care what you call it. You can call it God, Allah, Buddha. You can call it bookcase. You can call it, here's my thermos on my desk. You can call it thermos. It doesn't make a difference. Mm-hmm. Whatever you relate to your higher entity, your higher source, you are one with that. And this book goes into details on how, over generations, we've been led to believe that that's not the case. And in so many ways that, from what I learned, I was raised pretty much a devout Catholic. And not to go into too much detail about it, but over my 20s and 30s, I naturally gravitated away from that. Not to put down anyone who still practices that. That's another thing that I say. There is no right or wrong way to live your life. Life just is. I have one sole objective with this book, Alexa, and that's to make people lead less stressful lives. Okay, There's so much out there. I don't have to tell you. You look on the headlines every single day. What do we see? We see tragedies. We see hatred. We see divisiveness. People ask me if my book is relevant. I go, relevant? Are you kidding? This is the be all end all as far as I'm concerned. Because if we don't come to terms with something along these lines, I don't know where we're heading. We have to come to terms with oneness. We have to understand that we're killing ourselves. We're the only species on this planet that pretty much knowingly and willingly kills its own kind. And when they ask me why, I say it's because we've grown so far away from that inherent truth that we are tied together. It's like slicing off your left hand with your right hand. Why do we do this to each other? I'll never understand it. It's been my drive in my life since I started, since I told you back in 1976 from You and Ronnie Sauce. That has been my sole SOUL objective, is to try and bring us back towards that knowing. We need to remember our inherent truth, and how I say in the book, you could even separate that word remember. We need to remember with that truth again, that we are one.
Love that. And what are, from your perspective, what are some ways that we can do that? How can we remember? How can we start to, if our society is so disconnected, it's what are the ways that we can either help others remember or remember ourselves, come back into oneness? How?
Yeah. Well, plenty of ways. First, you have to come to the knowing that, you are one. I start off by saying, okay, let's go back to square one. All right. If you're born on this planet, if you're breathing, if you're alive, you are what? And then everyone says a human being. I go, okay, stop right there. Take everything else out of the equation. Take where you were born, take the language you speak, the color of your skin, take everything else out of the equation. If you're breathing, if you're quote unquote a human being, then that's, to me, that's ground zero of like oneness. It proves that we are connected. I go into detail furthermore about how we're one with everything else on the planet as well. But people just have to get to that simple knowledge. Like, okay, so we are all these things that we just know as human beings. Okay, so that to me has always proved it first and foremost, but people just get away from that. Again, based on maybe if they were, told that, okay, we're one with the people who were born on this side of the planet, and we're one with the people who have this color to their skin, for whatever reasons, that those like walls of separation have like been in place for centuries and millennia. Like, why is anyone's guess? But that's always been there. We've grown away as society has grown. We've just grown further and further away from that inherent truth. And, so when people come into just getting back to that ground zero per se, like, how do you not know that, like what happens on the other side of the planet happens to us, ask not for whom the bell tolls per se. From like Jonathan Dunn back in the 16th century. Like, that was such a beautiful, like a poetic way to describe oneness. Ask not for whom the bell tolls, when he said that in one of his poems back then. That was because back in the villages, like when somebody would die, they would ring the town bell. But to Jonathan Dunn's point, he never had to ask, all right, who died? Because he knew oneness. He understood oneness. He knows as long as I hear that bell, that a part of me has died as well. Like, it's that simple understanding that we've grown away from, and there's so many examples of that.
That example just reminded me of something that I read, I think a month ago, and it was one of the most, like, it resonated with my soul so deeply, and it has to do with everything that you were just talking about. I was talking about how, like, somewhere on the other side of the world in an ancient tribe or something, everyone who's born in the tribe has a song when they're born.
Oh, I love that.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's so beautiful. Think about then. Hey, that's the truth, Yeah. And getting like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, but how specifically, like, so everyone who's born has a song, and like the song is created, like the mother hears the song and then teaches the song to her partner, and then they have a baby, and the baby is born into the song, basically. So every member of the society, of the tribe, has a song. When any member of the tribe does anything that is, out of alignment, something that we in this society would punish someone for, or put them in jail for, or kill them, whatever it is, in the tribe, they all make the person come and stand in the center of a circle, and they all gather around this person, and they sing that person's song to them over and over and over and over again until they remember, like, who they are.
I love that.
I do too. And I've always remembered that when I read it, it just hit me so deeply. I was like, wow, like, that is such an example of love. Like, that's such an example of, like, how to heal someone instead of ostracizing them more, instead of, it's like, but it's going back to what you're talking about, how, like, we are all one. And, like, that philosophy and that way of dealing with society, people in society and issues in society is it's based off that principle, obviously, of, like, we are all one, we all need to heal together. And I don't know, I thought of that, and it's so beautiful.
That's beautiful. I like to use this too as an analogy to Alexa when I'm, like, speaking to someone. I say, picture you're standing by the ocean, all right, and you have a bucket. You take that bucket, you stick it in the ocean, you pull it out, and you take it from your right hand to your left hand, and you're looking at that bucket. All right, so now the question is this. Is the water in the bucket still considered the ocean? And the answer is obviously yes. It's the ocean, but it's just in a small container. So then I always take it further and say, all right, now in that same scenario, do the same thing, but now consider pulling out, taking that bucket, taking out like a bucket of your God, okay? So the ocean is God. Take a bucket out and then you pull it to the side again. So now what's in the bucket is still God, right? It's still the ocean. See, it's little things like that I think to help paint pictures, you know what I mean? Just to show that we're all one. Like if you take a bucket of water out of the ocean, it's still considered the ocean. Simple things that people just got away from.
Yeah. And so you're saying like it goes back to that quote, right? Like, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher it, but you know what I mean? It's talking about like the drop in the ocean, like the drop is still the ocean, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. That's amazing. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to a positive head listener that you think it would be important for them to know or understand as they continue on their own journey?
Well, first and foremost, keep listening to a positive head, folks, because we need more, thinkers along these lines. And we don't know what inspires us to do these kind of things, Alexa, that actually makes you care, that makes Brandon care and stuff like that. So, when like people take the time to do things like that, not that I'm trying to pat us all on the back, but we like do it for reasons because we were inspired. If there's any aspect of coming together, of unity, of peace, AKA oneness, whatever you want to call it, that you can latch onto, all right, well, then that's going to inspire you. And in whatever way it inspires you, you're going to be helping the collective consciousness, because that's what we're trying to do here. Okay. I go as far to say that people say, oh, the world is in such bad shape. Yeah, it is. But if you believe and understand in oneness, and something else I also go into detail in the book too, Alexa, is that we did it. We got it here. We are the sum of a collective consciousness that has taken us so far from that inherent truth over millennia that we find ourselves now at this boiling point. And yes, it's a boiling point. When you turn on the news, you know that this planet's in trouble in so many ways. And it's all because of divisiveness. And I go even deeper in it and I say the biggest culprit there has been EGO, ego, edge God out. There's a lot of different acronyms for it, but I like to use edge God out because that's what it happened. Everything is about me, mine, or mine's better. You should be this way. Follow this religion, follow this law. This is the right way. This is the wrong way. Everything's from divisiveness. You know what I mean? So again, to all of your listeners, if there's anything, any small aspect, I don't care if it's oneness. I don't care if it's anything. If it's something that can help to unite us to any degree, to help maybe, take away some of the hatred, some of the darkness. They always say, hate begets hate. And I understand that. And it's the same way with love. You know what I mean? If we could put out a collective consciousness and energy that can permeate the world, it has no other way than to be helpful. It has to, because we're all energy. We're all nothing but energy. And what we think about expands. And that's another big part of the book too. I hate to keep going back to it, but every time I talk, I keep thinking about things that are, that make sense to me. We're an energy. When people have, bad negative thoughts, that's what goes out into the world, and it does affect it, like not just your immediate circle, but, it goes out, it travels into the world. I give this example, Alexa, like if I could, because it makes so much sense. How many times have you been sitting at home, okay, thinking about your friend for one reason or another, and then the phone rings, right? And it's that person on the phone, and you go, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. How can that be? That's exactly what I'm talking about. The only way that happens is because of energy, because you were thinking about your friend and your energy permeated out into the universe. I don't care, like if your friend was on the other side of town or on the other side of the planet, he or she felt your energy. Picked up the phone and called you. It happens no other way. People say, oh, it's just a coincidence. No such thing. There are no accidents in a perfect universe. I use that a lot and I love it. No accidents in the perfect universe. You were thinking about your friend, but that's what I'm getting back to, friends out there. If you're listening, we're all energy. So it really does make a difference on how we think and the thoughts that we put out into the world. people who have negative thoughts, about hatred thoughts, about divisive thoughts. That's what we're putting out there. That's why it's so hard to reverse this collective consciousness, folks, because we're stuck in this rut. We're stuck in this trend of like bad things happening and everything. And everyone says, yeah, but the world's too far gone. It's never too far gone. Michael Jackson said it first and foremost, and it's a staple in my world. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. That's how it starts, friends. That's how it starts.
Zing. Love
right,
that
Alexa?
one.
Right?
I never listened.
Coming back.
I never thought of that. I mean, that is obviously what that song's about, but it never hit me as profoundly as when you just said it. Yeah, that's exactly right.
But the man I'm asking him to change his ways, because that's what it is. We have to change how we think. Again, these are all topics that I go into detail, like in my book. Yeah, I mean, and it's available out there, folks. If you're listening, you know.
Yeah, where can they get it?
As it is right now, it's like I said, like all of your online retailers, Amazon.com. Just look up I Am God, and so are you, my friend, Danny Rongo, and you'll find it. Right now it's in 3 formats. You can buy it in a paperback for, I think, $11. You can buy it a hard copy, which is like $22, or you can buy the ebook, which is like $3.99, I think, if you like to read on a Kindle or something along those lines.
Awesome. And where can people find you? I know you have is your play still going on, or what? That sounds so interesting. What's the deal with that?
Not as we speak. What I am hoping to do, hopefully with the help of my publisher, Balboa Press, is to maybe, as I start to do some of these book signing events, I want to make an event out of it, because I'm not just your regular spiritual author. I'm an entertainer first and foremost, pretty much. So I do make these events, and I am planning to make it events, because as I'm talking about this stuff, like I did in my play, Alexa, I could talk about a topic and then put on my guitar and follow it up with a song. That's, all my music's out there too, folks. If you just care to look up on iTunes and everything else, just look up Danny Rongo.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, it's all good. I'm at this place now. I'm 57 years old. Why am I talking about this now at this stage of my life? Because again, when you know that there's no accidents in a perfect universe, folks, you don't look at the how and why. You just accept. This is my journey. This is where I'm at this stage of my life, and I'm still trying to get my message to as many people on this planet as possible, because I've done fairly well in like my little small corner of the world, Alexa, but I know that this message has to be global, and I'm hoping that just this talk with you here right now can help that. Hoping the book helps it, hoping my music helps it. I'm trying to do it in as many formats as possible.
Yeah, you're covering all of the mediums. I think I'm trying. I think you're amazing. For letting it flow through all of these different outlets. And it's really wonderful to just think about all of that permeating, the world and reaching different people. And
it has to catch on, Alexa. We need it. It's so relevant. I keep using that word, but it really is. We're in trouble here in like so many ways, and I just want us to really take the time to think and really monitor how we think. I also say think about what we think about, as odd as that sounds, but that's the truth. If we start to think about what we think about, even if it's just something as like simple as like a judgmental thought. I use this example in the book, like I've practiced that over the years, because we all know what it's like to be walking down the street and somebody's walking towards you who may be different. Now, you can define different in any way you want, but someone's different. So our immediate thought like that is like, either like some kind of judgmental thought. And like when I started to catch myself doing that, I stopped those thoughts immediately. You know what I mean? So even just something like that, to think about what I'm thinking about, because like to have a judgmental thought isn't proving anything. It just means that I have to judge, which is not how I want to be. I try not to judge in all, times of my daily life. I try not to be judgmental towards anything. So we all have to work at it.
Absolutely. It's a practice for sure. I was talking about whether, I don't know, on one podcast, I was talking about how this year when I was at Burning Man, I was really noticing how by like the third or fourth day, or just the whole time I was there, but I was really starting to notice this time how the thing that I love about being there is that wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, whoever is crossing my path, my immediate thought is this person is awesome because blank. It's whereas I was comparing that with how I usually feel when I'm walking down the street and I see someone.
Exactly. Like I was just saying, right?
Yes, exactly. Where it's like almost this immediate separation mentality of like, how is this person different than me? And why should I be afraid of them? Or why should I be on guard about them? Or why should I be like it's this totally different mindset. And it's beautiful how when you're constantly when your heart is open, that's when you're thinking, how is this person like, what do we have in common? How can I connect with this person? Why is this person awesome instead of the opposite? Right. And it's like truly, it shows me truly what we're working towards. That's what we're working towards. We're working towards that way of life till that way of life is our life, you know?
And when you think along those lines, Alexa, don't you feel lighter?
Absolutely.
Don't you feel lighter, right? Like, because that just says that it's working in total harmony with what your source is. Again, whatever you call that source, when you come from that place of sending a silent message of love to someone who you pass by, you don't even, you can just send someone love. You just pass them down the street, right? Who's walking the other way. You'll sense that you'll feel lighter because you're coming to terms with oneness. You're coming to terms with your higher self. And that's what we're supposed to do. Simple things like that. Because once you do that, and like to your point, when you get into a habit of it, you really start to see things change. You know what I mean? It's all good energy. We have to have it. We have to share it. You have to share it.
Absolutely. Well, I have one more question for you here.
Sure.
Do you have any fun or inspiring manifestation stories or synchronicity stories that you'd like to share?
Well, especially because I'm still in touch with so many of my friends who are my age who had the same career that I had when I was referring earlier to Wall Street and how I worked down there for 30 years. And there's friends of mine who I'm still in touch with who are my age or who are, like approaching this age of like the mid 50s who just know that, it's going to happen sooner or later. I've been reaching out to them and I've been sharing what I've been able to do and accomplish since it happened to me back in March of 2016. And they're like nervous when they hear it, but I say, listen, first of all, I hit them with everything from my book, like there are no accidents in a perfect universe. So if you do get laid off, it's for the right reasons. Just welcome it. Surrender, like I said earlier, surrender to your higher source, be receptive. We need to be receptive to your intuitive feelings, which people get away from here, which is yet another chapter in the book about intuition. I always say that when we talk to God, Alexa, it's called prayer. But when God answers back, what's that called? And they go, prayer too? I go, no, it's not prayer. That's intuition. That's those gut feelings that keep gnawing at us over time and time and time, because that's your higher source trying to steer you in the right direction. So I tell my friends, just be receptive to that stuff. Be open to when you have intuitive feelings, because it's going to lead you in the right direction. Like it did with me. Like I was able to, like create this musical and put it out there and perform in front of hundreds and thousands of people. And then it took me to Broadway and then from there, like even having the passing of my mom, which is, crushed me like to no end. But I found something receptive from that. And it was my mom's voice and my higher self come to me and say, write a book. So, I'm just being receptive to what I feel is oneness and this higher self. And it's leading me in these great directions. You know what I mean? And so, I'm like hoping to inspire some of the some of the friends that I've had who are approaching this end, or if you've just recently lost a job, for anyone out there, if you've lost a job or something along those lines, hey, it happens for a reason. Again, stay receptive, man, and let these feelings, let the energy, it's all it is. It's going to flow to you. If you put up blockage, that ain't going to help. You know, you got to be receptive to it. Keep open.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Yeah. Well, Danny, this has been very enlightening and very soothing. I love your energy.
Hey, man, you are awesome, Alexa. And I could not thank you and Brandon enough for this opportunity. Like I said, it's just, you guys were like one of the first podcasts that I actually looked at and said, I was like, wow, first of all, you guys are like a high-end podcast. Mine is
a high-end podcast. Wow.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got everything down. Everything's like, I'm, mine's good. Like the content is there, but I'm just talking from like a technical aspect. You guys are crushing, which is great. God bless you. But you inspired me. Like I said, in fact, I still have it up right here. Let me just look at it again. The way you say here, interviews a different consciousness change maker that is helping to pave the way for humanity as we collectively transition into a state of expanded consciousness and awareness. Folks, just read their mission statement here at Posse. That's what it's about. That's what I'm trying to do in my small corner too. We're trying to, transition from a collective standpoint. We're trying to all move forward. That's what I said. It's a collective consciousness that brought us, I should say, to this boiling point. And it's these kind of things that'll help to reverse it or to start a new collective consciousness that'll, get us back towards a oneness, per se, and being together and having conscious awareness.
And I am looking forward to that, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Well, Danny, this is amazing. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. I hope everyone listening goes and checks out your book and your podcast and your play if it comes out or is started again, and your music. It's like you're doing so many things. You're using so many different mediums to, let the energy flow. And I think that's so important and so beautiful and such a beautiful example, because it just shows there's just no limits and there's just so many possibilities if we're just open to it. So thank you for being open to it. Thank you for being receptive.
Please, yes. I'm humbled there. Thank you for the kind words.
Absolutely. And until next time, as Brandon always says, journey well. That's it for this week's episode. If you're a listener with a story to share and are interested in being featured on a future episode of this special series, you can email me at alexa@positivehead.com. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Dyer, which is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear Brandon constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place we know of to do it. Period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Otherwise, tune in next Friday for another P-Head Posse episode. And until then, as Brandon always says, journey well.